आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम, जन जन से संपर्क बढ़ाने वाले हम, आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम, जन जन से संपर्क बढ़ाने वाले हम, आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम, जन जन से संपर्क बढ़ाने वाले हम, आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम। नगर नगर ये ग्राम और ये गलियारे, भरने इनमें नव जीवन के उजियारे। नगर नगर ये ग्राम और ये गलियारे, भरने इनमें नव जीवन के उजियारे। बार बार हम दोहराते हैं यही कसम, यही कसम, यही कसम, आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम, जन जन से संपर्क बढ़ाने वाले हम, आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम, जन जन से संपर्क बढ़ाने वाले हम, आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम। हमें हटाना घर घर से अंधियारा है, हमें तोड़नी पाखंडों की धारा है। हमें हटाना घर घर से अंधियारा है, हमें तोड़नी पाखंडों की धारा है। सच को कहने वाली चलती रहे कलम, चलती रहे कलम, आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम, जन जन से संपर्क बढ़ाने वाले हम, आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम, जन जन से संपर्क बढ़ाने वाले हम, आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम। कदम मिलाकर नर नारी सब और बढ़े, ज्ञान और विज्ञान नए सोपान चढ़े। कदम मिलाकर नर नारी सब और बढ़े, ज्ञान और विज्ञान नए सोपान चढ़े। देना है संदेश यही हमको हरदम, यही हमको हरदम, आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम, जन जन से संपर्क बढ़ाने वाले हम, आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम, जन जन से संपर्क बढ़ाने वाले हम, आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम, जन जन से संपर्क बढ़ाने वाले हम, आशाओं की किरण जगाने वाले हम, जन जन से संपर्क बढ़ाने वाले हम।
Public Relations Society of India is All India apex organization to India's public relations and communication professionals from all over the country. 63-year-old professional body uses 360-degree communication tools in order to build public opinion on various issues of national and social importance, in addition to its core mission of strengthening the public relations and communication profession. The Public Relations Society of India was established in 1958 to promote and strengthen public relations as a profession by taking up professional development programs. Over the last 6 decades, Public Relations Society of India has helped promoting and developing professional public relation in India, code of ethics, and building up solid communication platforms for national agenda and government programs. Every year, All India Public Relation Conference is organized on a specific theme. This year, we are together on this virtual platform to collectively pledge to take PR of India to greater heights. Today is the third day of 43rd All India PR Conference, and we begin the day with Youth Forum. Whatever efforts PRSI is making to ensure that PR profession earns the desired respect and recognition with its meaningful contribution to the profession. How our young professionals feel about its profession, its challenges and opportunities all are important to us. In this youth forum, first speaker is Dr. Sharmila Kayal, Associate Professor, Communication Management, Adamas University, Kolkata. Dr. Sharmila Kayal was full-time doctoral research scholar in Pondicherry Central University. She has worked in various organizations and industry. She will speak on advertising. Let us hear from what she has to say.
Hello, myself Dr. Sharmila Kayal, presently working as an Associate Professor in the Department of Communication Management, School of Media and Communication, Adamas University. I'm very happy and excited to be a part of PRSI's 43rd All India Public Relations Conference on the theme of this extravaganza conference is Shaping Up New India through Innovation, Creativity, and Make in India efforts, role of effective public relations, where I'm addressing on advertising. So advertising in this context is very much important because we know what are the traditional advertisement and we try to understand what advertising is. But what next? In this pandemic, where every people are homebound, where the need of the consumers also been changed. So it's very necessary to understand the components of digital advertising. So the first question which comes to our mind is, why is digital advertising important? So there are many reasons that digital advertising are a crucial part of any business's marketing strategy. Maybe the most important one is that consumers are spending more and more time connected to the internet through their computers, smartphones, and smart home devices. The average Indian who have the access to, any devices in their household. So it allows them to meet the audiences or as an audience where they are. So people make decisions about the goods and services they buy at all times of the day, during all kinds of activities. So with digital advertisements, while you are accessing social media, consuming news, or chatting with, in WhatsApp, so you can reach the audiences when they are browsing online for products to buy. It also facilitates us to go for the product and to sell the ideas or services which we are intended to as an advertiser. So it might reach them when they are streaming a TV show, like can be a favorite website, or as I said, in social media. So even they don't choose to purchase from, from that particular brand or product in that moment also. So it reaches them in different context, which help them in remembering the brand and when they are ready to purchase. So it will be there in their psychology. It will be there in their mind for a longer period of time. More they consume the ad in digital platforms. So the next question which comes to our mind is, what is digital advertising? So before we could address the slides and all, it is very much important to know what is digital advertising. Digital advertising refers to marketing through online channels such as websites, streaming content, and more. So, digital ads span media formats including text, image, audio, video. So, they will help in achieving the variety of business goals across the marketing funnel. So, ranging from brand awareness to customer engagement to launching new products and driving repeat sales. So, for the student who are studying advertising or the practitioners of it or the researcher of advertising, it's very much essential to know the changing components. And in Indian scenario where the government is initiating the Make in India effort or Atmanirbhar Bharat, there itself, by knowing the trend of advertising in the current scenario or in the contemporary times will be the key. So not only in creating the ad, but to promoting your particular business in multiple platforms to reach out to your targeted audience should be known to everyone. So give me a moment to share my screen. So here goes the slide, advertising next. Advertising, it tells about the promotion, the connection, the product, the brand, the concept, the creative, the commercials, the design, the search engine optimization, and the persuasive techniques, the strategies, and many more. So before I could go further, I would like to, you know, quote Henry Ford, the founder of the Ford Motor Company. He said, stopping advertising to save money is like stopping your watch to save time. So it's very much crucial in these contemporary times to learn and to change, to know the or to learn from the changing narratives of advertising. So, advertising. So, the classic definition, we can say that it's a means of way, or advertising means a way of communicating or communication that reaches all types of sector. It doesn't bind to any particular sector, but it holds the trans sector approach with the multimodality functionality of it. So, what is advertising? So, it provides information and it creates awareness among people relating to any product or service. So, the action of calling something to the attention of the public can be considered as advertising. So, what is the aim of advertising? The advertising should have a mission, should have a money, media to identify what message will go in which media, the message or the content, and to measure the effectiveness. So it is the delivery of the most persuasive product message at the right time, in the right place, to the right person, at the lowest possible cost. So the role of advertising can be of not limited to this four, but beyond that. Marketing role, where it has the integrated marketing communication approach. So offline, online, on ground, off ground, everywhere in the streaming platform also, it persuades people to reach out to the target market, to consumers, to customers for buying their particular product or services. Communication role, to have the effective communication in order to motivate their persuasiveness in the decision making process. Social role, to accumulate and to have a rapport so the word of mouth, the personal selling can be achieved. Economic role, it should consider different strata of the society, their budget, their needs, and their purchasing capacity or the purchasing behavior also need to be considered. So the role of advertising in brand positioning. For any brand positioning, the role of advertising is very essential and pivotal. So, in order to achieve brand identity, the logo, the performance, the design, symbols, name, packaging, image, or associations of it is very much required. So again, we are coming back to where we have started to understand advertising. Next is digital advertising. So digital advertising is the practice of delivering promotional content to users through various online and digital channels. So it leverages mediums are social media, social networking sites, emails, search engines, mobile apps, affiliate programs, websites to show advertisements and messages to audiences. Digital advertising refers to, you know, the marketing through online channels such as websites, streaming content, and more. So it adds pan media formats. So important to in order to understand is text, image, audio, and video. So they can help you achieve a variety of business goals across the marketing funnel, which I've already told, ranging from brand awareness to customer engagement, which is very much important to understand. So this out our 8-step digital marketing process should have the pro, then the strategy, then to build up, then optimize, then publish, then promote, then track and refine. So probe is that it's the first approach of the marketing research to know the pulse of the consumer, to know the ongoing scenarios or ongoing situation which our advertising should be intended on. Like in the recent, societal thing, like, we before one slide, we got to know that advertising role also includes the social role. So the discrimination of the gender, uh, biasness, like Wix in their recently ad, it has been promoted the touch of care, and pasabazaar.com also it highlighted a differently able person's emotional through emotional ad. So it's always, to inculcate the message by using the right appeal to the intended audiences. Then we need to, first one is to investigate, that can be considered as the first step, that is market research or probing, or to identify the problem. Then to strategize, where we can have the aims, the objectives, and what to be built up. The step 3, the production. Then after that thing, to optimize the data and all. Then it should be telecasted or broadcasted. Then it should be promoted in multiple platforms or multiple channels. Then we should have a track how much the like engagement we have got through the customers and consumers. So is it going upward or downward? They are liking it or not? Then refine it. Always there will be, based on the feedback, always there is a chance of improvement or refinement. Then again it leads to probe. So where the digital marketing process, it is cyclical. Again it indulges in the probe or the market research to know the pulse of the audiences or the customers or the consumers. So these 8 intangible steps are interrelated or intertwined, and depending on, it's a continuous journey, it's a dynamic one, not a static one. So in order in this present days, where to optimize your small and medium scale enterprises, we need to boost up the local small scale industries to go for digital marketing thing, how they can revamp their current business strategy, and they can have the with the effect of the global market, how can they get the popularity in not only to a particular geographical entity, but to have a limitless foundation of the irrespective of geographical thing. So what is it? So the search advertising. There are many components of digital advertising. First comes that is, the search, display, social advertising, native advertising, and programmatic advertising. So has given brands a plethora of opportunities to take their brand name to the next level. So traditional, like non-digital advertising widely followed the spray and pray approach. It reached out to the masses, but the ROI was largely undetermined. But here in digital advertising, as we know it today, is heavily data driven and give you minute details of your campaigns and outcomes. So the availability of user data and reach targeting capabilities makes digital advertising an important tool for businesses to connect with their audience. So it always useful to remember that while the connected world offers me ways to reach and engage with customers, there is a distinction between ways that are free or organic and paid or inorganic. So digital advertising is an inorganic way to reach and engage with customers and prospects. So what are the digital advertising formats? So first, search engine marketing, search advertising, display advertising, social media advertising, native advertising, remarketing advertising. So what is the search advertising? For simple understanding of it, I have given you the images here. You can see that where while whenever you look for a product or service online, Google, we oftenly do it, Googling whatever we do not know and want to know about it. So any other search engine also, Yahoo and something, displays a result page consisting of both organic and sponsored results. The ads can be displayed in many ways, but search engines typically indicate which results are sponsored and which are not. So paid search advertising, also known as sponsored ads, search marketing, search engine marketing, pay per click marketing, and cost per click marketing is a technique that displays ads in search engine results whenever someone searches for the services or products offered by the advertiser. In this way, the ad displayed perfectly matches each query. You type desktop computer, there will be, they will be sponsored ads. Say, see desktop. So this many results in only 0.56 seconds. So before to that, only you type biscuit, there will be sellers and with the sponsored ads, which has been marked like Britannia, Best Buy, Quality One, 75 rupees in Amazon and all. These are the sponsored ads and all. So search advertising is very effective. It is based on the explicit need of the users rather than just an implicit information about what they might be after. This naturally increases the likelihood of clicks and conversion. For example, a small business, biscuit maker or bakery, owner wants to highlight their businesses. So what they will do is, in the help of search advertising, they will can give for the sponsored events in the periphery of the with the help of the zip or the pin, like in the rural area or the urban area, or which area specific also, from one place, like 3 kilometer radius, he want to serve or the delivery and all. So they can go for the search advertising, that sponsored thing. So that need to be understood by the upcoming, the entrepreneurs. So this advertising, types of advertising in the digital mode can definitely help them. So search advertising, how it works: bid, quality, format impact, and is equal to ad rank. So suppose it's a $2. So it's a high, then it's medium, low, Then format impact also high, medium, then no format also can be thing. So ad rank on the basis of the bit, the quality, and the format impact. So it's based on the, like, in Indian scenario also it varies. So it in search advertising, it also enables the Indian entrepreneurs, small and medium scale, how they can go for the bid, quality, format, impact, and they can have it. So this native advertising, the next thing in digital advertising. So native advertising is the concept of creating ads that are so cohesive with the page content, assimilated into the design, and consistent with the platform behavior that the viewer feels the ad belongs there. So promoted search results and sponsored social media posts are very popular examples of native ads. Both formats provide the same kind of value to users as the organic search results and user generated social media posts. So, as consumers become more resistant to traditional forms of advertising, Fortune, 500 brands and consumer startups alike are allocating bigger budgets towards content marketing and non-disruptive ad formats. So, the global market of native ads is expected to reach, like in which in dollar, like 85 billion, like annual revenue by 2020. It was the oldest data, but now also it can be the situation would have, like, after the December 2021, the new statistics will come up, and I think the result will go further in comparison to 2020. So first, the New York Times used native ad in their page, and trends get followed by others too. So here you can say that the marks are, like, in that New York Times, it is like, the native ads example how they have put in their web pages. So we should about be aware of digital advertising frauds also, like from bots, pixel stuffing, propounders, domain spoofing, and ad sticking. So these are the frauds that usually is there associated. So when we as a learner, as a practitioner, or when we can train the MSMEs, entrepreneurs to deal with the digital advertising, we should also make aware them to have a hands-on training on to how to be away with, or how to avoid the fraudulent practices over the cloud marketing or the digital advertising approaches. So bots, pixel stuffing, propounders, domain spoofing, and ad stinking need to be understood and carefully should be dealt with. So challenges for the digital advertising along with the fraud, like ad blockers. So the increased ad cost also is a challenge that need to be dealt with. Lack of transparency. So there are many terms and conditions, and latent or hidden the terms and conditions are there, which generally the entrepreneurs or the consumers are likely to don't go for it and all. So that's why the question of what the challenges is, the comes is the lack of transparency. And ad blindness also, it's a folded approach where it facilitates the consumers or the buyers. They should not go beyond that, like some of the pop-up ads like 300 rupees with a very branded thing and all. When you will go to, when it will take to you the separate page, then only you get to know that it is fraud thing and all. So it has been taken your old data, or the price is much more high, but it was showing like 300 rupees. So ad blindness works like that. So there is a challenges which need to be carefully handled. So General Data Protection Regulation (GDPR) also somewhat not feasible to be understood with. So these are the challenges that need to be deal with carefully in digital advertising arena, like ad blockers, increased ad cost, lack of transparency, ad blindness, general data protection regulation. So this is all about what I wanted to tell us for advertising next, where with the Make in India and Atmanirbhar campaign by the government of India, the advertising also paves the way for small scale industries, small and medium scale industries, and to promote their products, to position their brand in a unique way, so that it should not limit with the specific people. It should go beyond the geography and should be there in all across the country. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sharmila, for sharing your thoughts on advertising, which impacts all of us in profession and the society. Now I invite Ms. Neha Deepak Choudhary, Manager Corporate Communication, Indian Oil Limited, New Delhi. She will share her thoughts on emerging communication scenario, paradigm shift in communication strategy and the new age communication. Masters in Mass Communication with specialization in TV and film production, Ms. Neha, with around 12 years of experience in corporate world, handling illustrious brands with Indian Oil for over 10 years. She has also received number of awards. Currently, she is representing the millennial generation of oil and gas industry of India, expressing new ideas, technological advancements, and reverse mentoring mechanisms to petroleum minister and who's who of oil and gas industry. Over to Ms. Neha Choudhary.
Hello everyone, I am Neha Chaudhary, Manager Corporate Communications from Indian Oil, posted at Corporate Office, New Delhi. So today I'm here to talk about the paradigm shift in communication strategies and the new age communication that because we all come from a communication and PR background, the last few years have been, I must say, the last 2 years have been transformational as far as the public relations is concerned. So to begin with, I would just like to say that, being in a public sector company, we are used to, dealing with things which are extremely planned. So we have a planner. We have our daily routines, we have a calendar set, and we actually want to adhere to it. But we all know that 2020 came in as a game changer as far as the public relations and media relations, corporate communications is concerned. So today, I think we'll, in another 20-25 minutes, I'll take you through my learnings and how I see this transformation. Being from the millennial generation, we have actually heard out a lot of experienced people, experienced stalwarts from our industry. But as a millennial, I feel I have a different approach and a different learning that this pandemic has brought in. So I've made a small little presentation. With your permission, I'll start the presentation and then we'll talk about it. So that's the topic that we'll be talking about: paradigm shift in communication strategies, new age communication. Now, as I was saying, we are all used to a very planned scenario. We had our calendars, we had our schedules, and we used to work in sync with that. But when this pandemic came in, and the most famous word today, or the most Googled word today, or the most used word today is unprecedented. Change, we all know, is the only constant, but I am sure majority of us are a little reluctant as far as change is concerned. But this pandemic brought so many unprecedented events, happenings, circumstances that we had to uh, quickly adapt to it, quickly change according to it, quickly change strategies, and work in a very new environment. Today, what we all today, when we are almost out of it, or maybe if I can say that. Somewhere in midst of welcoming a third wave maybe, but today we are more prepared. We know how to start, where to begin, where to take the communication, and how to manage the entire communication process. um, the transformed way of communication, I think, being in a public sector company, we all were, at least the millennial generation, I would say, that we all were vouching for work from home, because we used to hear that abroad, work from home is a culture and people enjoy doing it, and why don't we have it? And talking about Indian Oil, we had proposed this to the management as well, and they came back to us and said, "You bring out a strategy, give us a plan." We were in, we were trying to make that strategies, trying to jot down things on paper, and suddenly the pandemic happened. Suddenly, one fine day, our boss called us, and he asked us that how equipped are you if you are asked to work from home. Um, Majority of us, I mean, the younger generation or the middle management, were okay with it. We need to make adjustments, we need to put our outlooks, we need to install it in our laptops and things like that. But then we were comfortable. But when it came to the senior generations, they were reluctant. They thought that it will be difficult. How will they manage the quantum of mails, communication, sending, taking printouts, scanning, giving changes, talking to 3 to 4 agencies at one time? How do we manage all these things? So that somewhere showed that the generation today is more adept. But then when the pandemic struck, I mean, the best part was that we all we all adopted the new ways. We all adapted how we should transform, and we all tried. I think that's the right way to put it. We all tried, to learn new things, to learn, unlearn, and relearn, as they say. So that is how this happened. So before we go further, I mean, public relations, the importance of public relations has always been there, but somewhere we feel that when we talk about companies like public sector companies, or different oil and gas sector companies, we still lay emphasis on different verticals who are into the mainstream, who are working into the plants, who are directly contributing to the business. And somewhere public relations was thought that yes, it exists, but how important is it, was something that we have been fighting our ways through, the management, the mindsets, and everything, that PR or corporate communications is a very important domain, which needs to be like the core of the company. When this pandemic struck, I think the first thing every company did was to get the communication department active. It was then that a company realized that how important it is to communicate not only with the internal stakeholders but outside as well. The situation was grim. People didn't have any idea what's going on, what is the gravity of this pandemic, how serious it is, how will it impact the business, how are we going to work, do we work, do we not work, the lockdowns. everything was, nothing was organized, if I can say. And it was then when the companies realized the importance of the corporate communications in an organization. Um, when we talk about public relations, over the ages, if I talk about 2 decades of public relations, we all have seen that, public relations was known as media management groups, or information dissemination groups. Um, but what happened over the years is that it went into a number of changes. So we saw from hardboard print media, we went on to a coverage led portfolio where television came into picture, where we could see more, and the emotions were more better displayed. Then came in your digital media, where you had all sorts of verticals coming in, social media playing an important role. And then gradually, from a plain vanilla information sharing, we had two-way communications. People were responding to your posts, people were talking about it. um, from mere press releases, we went on to storytelling mechanisms. Today, if there is any event happening, we share a live of that video. We share videos. We communicate in a way which, in which our audience can relate to it, rather than only text and pictures. So now we have videos, we have live scenarios that we are showing. We are showing our installation, so people know that Indian Oil is, beyond a petrol pump or a gas cylinder. It has acres of installations. It has refineries. It has pipelines. It has R&D. It is into petrochemicals. It does corporate social responsibility and much more. So today, the changing face of public relations has enabled companies to showcase them better. That is what I would say. We have built in a relationship with not only our internal stakeholders, but our external stakeholders as well. Our channel partners are better connected, because now they know that, they are part of a bigger and a larger scenario. Today, when we talk about, because earlier it was just one-way communication, we were giving press releases, we were giving pictures, and we were trying to, advertise, or, just give out information. Today, empathy has taken over. The information that we are disseminating today is more important, because now we realize that whatever we do, we'll get a feedback. So if we are talking about something that is not relevant, or that is passé, it is going to come back to us. It is going to come back to us, and I'm sure all the public relations companies, the departments are facing this, that now that we all have gone digital, even the best of posts, where we are talking about something that we have done well, we get comments on that which are, which actually touch the general public. I would not say that they are not in, a good taste, but that is what matters to the company. So if you say that Indian Oil has earned this much profit, you just scroll down and you read the comments, and you read ki petrol ke daam kab kam kar rahe ho. So that's how it hits, because Indian Oil earning a profit doesn't matter to the general public outside. What matters is the prices of the fuel today. So how empathetically you talk about your company, how do you disseminate the information that is in interest of your stakeholders, makes you more relevant today. So that's how I feel, over the years the growth has given us expansion, but it has brought in more responsibility also onto us. Okay, so now coming on to public relations and the pandemic. We all know that the world came to a standstill. We were all pushed into homes, and we were expected to work I, as a millennial, would say to work even more as compared to what we were working when we were in a time-bound office scenario. So time was something that was flexible, and how we utilize that time, how soon we adapted to this new normal, was something that everyone was looking up to. Talking about Indian Oil, as a public relations company, we initially, when we went into the lockdown, the initial things that we did for our employees was to keep them posted. So Indian Oil takes out a general newsletter every day. That's an everyday scenario that we take out. It's a digital newsletter. We ensured that even during the pandemic, the newsletter goes. So this was one challenge, though we were talking only about the pandemic. We were giving them advisories. We were talking to them about, how our work is still going on, how our employees, the IOCNs, are going beyond, the call of their work and helping people, how we are reaching out. Everything, and more so how we are supporting the nation in this crisis. So just to give you a brief, from transporting liquid medical oxygen to people during the second wave, to adjusting to looking for giving them medication, free food ration, to ensuring POL supplies, diesel, petrol, cylinders every day. Uh, I must say that IOCNs, they didn't care about themselves. For us, we always say "Pehle Indian, phir oil," and this pandemic gave us an opportunity to prove that this is what we are. We just don't say "Pehle Indian, phir oil," but we actually practice the same. Um, so as far as the company was concerned, the company did all that it could do, from comforting their employees to ensuring the workmen who work with us, ex gratia was announced, their families were taken care of. The employees, for the employees, we had a telemedicine app. Our refineries, our installations, we had COVID care centers that we had developed. So anyone who would get affected by COVID used to get first hand comfort, used to get a place to stay with all food arrangements made, everything. So not only for internal stakeholders, but we went beyond our organization, helped the workers, the movement that happened where all the daily wage workers were transporting from one place to another. It gives me immense pride to say that our petrol pumps, our channel partners, took it as their responsibility to help them with food, water. So whoever were walking miles to reach their hometowns, any petrol pump that they would see open, they would offer them water, biscuits, something that they could eat, something that they could carry. So we all went beyond our official commitments to reach out to people and make a difference. Then there were a lot of things that we do, and if I get into it, I mean, I can go on and on, but I can just say that Indian Oil has its corporate core values of care, innovation, passion, and trust. And this pandemic, I think we have proved that we know not only these core values are ingrained in each one of us, and we are here to uh, we are always there standing by the nation. As far as public relations is concerned, as I told you, we took out advisories almost every day. We had advisories coming up. Advisories were translated into different languages and shared, not only for the employees, but for the families as well. We were giving them precautionary, advices, like we were giving them data where things are not going right was also being told, where things are under control were also being told. Basically, we were keeping everyone informed. The initiatives that the company was taking during this time, because we were all at home, so we had a telemedicine app. How to use that app, the guide to use that was shared through this newsletter of ours. Then we had our chairman and directors sending SMSs to all employees, telling them that if there is, any issue, anything, the company is standing by you, we are standing by you, we are approachable, you can write to us and we'll be there and we'll help you. There were COVID committee meetings. There was a very high level COVID committee that was formed, which was headed by Director HR of Indian Oil. And this meeting, I must say, went on for almost an year, every single day, be it a public holiday, be it a Sunday, be it any day, festivals. Every day we have these COVID meetings where the on ground actual scenario was discussed. How many IOCNs have been affected? How many family members of the IOCNs are COVID positive? How many are under treatment? How many have got beds? How many have lost their lives? How many workmen affected? Everything was being talked about. Even after that, after the second wave, once the vaccination drive started, I think Indian Oil, just like any other public sector company, took it upon themselves to vaccinate, number one, all its employees. Then came the family members and the workmen. Everyone was encouraged, was literally took out of their comfort zones, and they were asked to get vaccinated. Today, I must say around 80%, including our workmen, our contract workers, their families, are all doubly vaccinated and are safe and contributing to the corporation. So basically, dissemination of information, this is where public relations came into the picture, not only for the employees, but whatever we were doing for the nation was also being told to the media, because as one of the largest public sector entities, the media wanted to know how are we standing by the nation. So all the initiatives that we were taking were being informed in the form of press releases, in the form of short videos, in the form of telephonic interviews. We all adapted to this platform, which is Zoom. We were not only doing our official work, but we were even meeting our friends and families through, these platforms. Um, so we learned, and the essence of public relations, I think, came out very well during this pandemic, and the entire corporate communications, or the pandemic, or the PR fraternity rose up to the occasion and made a difference. Um, so when we talk about the pandemic, what happened was, the uh, people, the level of engagement with people, with general public, with your employees, with your stakeholders increased. They were looking up to you. In general scenario, I'm sure everyone has experienced that it didn't matter. It doesn't matter if we give out a press release or inform the media about something that is happening for even a month. They're okay with it. Maybe something new hasn't happened, or there's nothing worthwhile sharing. It's a normal scenario that's going on. But during the pandemic, I think every day we used to get calls. What are you doing? What is the scenario? Because as far as Indian Oil is concerned, we have pan India presence. So we had information, ground level information from different states coming in. So the media wanted to know, what are you doing in southern part of the nation? What are you doing in eastern part of the nation, northern part of the nation, western part of the nation? So the level of engagement increased. Even our employees, we all got well connected. So if there was any issue rising in, so we had people writing to each other, we had people calling up each other in a daily scenario. I think it's very difficult to connect with people across the nation, but during this pandemic, the level of engagement actually increased. And the more you were transparent, the more you were open about the information, the more uh, trust you gained, the more as a company you were valued. So I would say, with the advent of so many digital platforms, so many new forms of communication, this is the era of truth, because you today you cannot hide any scenario. You cannot just do away put certain information under the carpet. That's just not possible. So while I'm talking to you, we have had a small incident in our Haldia refinery, of a small fire, and the crisis communication is on. The first thing that we did was, before the media bloats up or imagines the situation and starts reporting, the first-hand information was shared by our department with the media across the nation, that this is the gravity of the incident. This is what we are investigating, what has went wrong, but there's nothing to panic, and whatever information or updates we'll share with you. So this is how we have started, and we are now under control of that situation. So I think it is time that we accept that it is important to disseminate information, and information that is correct. So how the media relations has transformed, I also come from a millennial generation, so I've heard stories where my seniors, Dr. Pathak and all of them, they keep telling us that we used to go to different media channels and take printouts of the press release and give them those printouts, and take photographs, and hand it over to them. Thankfully, we come from a generation where we have not seen that, and we have always been onto emailing our press releases and our photographs. But from there, today we have moved on, because I clearly remember that the media used to wait. That when are you doing a press meet, or when are you doing a media interaction? Uh, Today it is zip zap zoom. They just call up and they say if the chairman is available or if your director is available in an hour's time. We can do a Zoom call and a Zoom interview. We can talk to them over FaceTime. We can do a WhatsApp video call. The time, the preparation time for an organization today has really, really reduced. You have to be up and happening, up with all the data and prepared for any interview, any video bite, just at the drop of a hat. Earlier, we used to have time. We could have prepared. If this question comes, what are we going to answer? Today, I mean, you can be on live TV and talking to the general public, and there's no time, to make up things, or to think of what you need to communicate. So you need to communicate what is the truth. When we talk about our social media platforms, so Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, another thing that has come up is, today your information has to be integrated. It you cannot afford to not use all the platforms. If you are present on a platform, you have to have the information on that. So a media person, or even us, if there is any announcement that we make, we definitely go on to their Instagram channel or their LinkedIn channel and check whether this information that has been shared is authentic or no. And if you just share the information on, say, Facebook, and don't put it on LinkedIn and Instagram, it comes in as a doubt whether whether this has happened or this has not happened, or is this correct information, not correct information, and then you start getting calls. So what you need to do is, you need to be consistent, and you need to use all the social media platforms where you are. So more the merrier, yes, but more the merrier in terms of disseminating information means more responsibility and more work. A normal email without any social media discussion on it doesn't really work today. So online versus offline, I think we all would agree that there's no such thing now. I mean, you have to be offline, you have to be online, you have to integrate, you have to understand that your audience has grown up. Um, they will ask questions, they will write comments, they will criticize you in public. You are a public entity, you have to face it, you have to understand it, you have to respond. You cannot delete a comment. I mean, let's not even get into that, because if you do that, you have another series of comments coming in that there was a complaint and the company has deleted it. So handling the audience today is one challenge, but I'm sure we all communication experts know how to deal with the situation. We are doing it, and we are doing it in a very professional manner, I must say. But as far as the divide of online versus online is concerned, it's gone. Now, this is the favorite section that I like talking about. Communicating with the millennials. Um, in an organization like ours, we have almost 5 generations working together. I proudly say that, but I cannot, I cannot shy away by saying that this sometimes creates issues. So we all know there are a lot of, prejudices, I would like to call, as far as millennials are concerned. We believe they are there's less attention span, they are not patient, maybe the dedication and commitment levels are questioned, their seriousness is always questioned. Um, I feel this pandemic came in as a boon to the millennials as far as the working culture is concerned. There was a time when our seniors would scold us saying to keep communicating on your mobiles, and you are always busy on calls, and what do you do? But then this pandemic, we all were working on our mobiles, we all were accessible. uh, I would say that we were accessible beyond the set time limits of a senior officer, because we as millennials, we sleep late. Let's not get into getting up hours, but then yes, we sleep late. So even if you give us a speech to be written maybe at 9 o'clock in the night, we used to deliver it at 3 a.m. in the morning and then get up like maybe at 8 or at 9. So we were more accessible. You'll have to agree to that. The millennials in this pandemic were more accessible. They were more adaptive. Work from home, day 100% output. That is how it was. Um, they absorbed everything, every new thing, every new platform, be it Zoom, be it your Microsoft Teams, everything, all online platforms. They adapted. They even went out and taught their seniors how to handle that, because they had more exposure. They We were watching, say, maybe 10 platforms at a time, so we knew that where there is clash of information, where the information is not reaching, or who is reporting something which is actually not happening, and we brought it to the notice of the management, and that was addressed at the right time. I think communicating with the millennials, I think this pandemic has enabled the seniors to understand millennials better. And we as millennials today come back to offices um, happier, because we know that the trust has increased during these, lockdowns. Uh, Now, the responsibility is given and then forgotten, because there is that trust that they'll handle it. So that comes in as a very happy moment, or it gives us a lot of peace that we have developed, we have earned that respect or earned that trust of our seniors that we were always looking at. um, so I think we are more in sync. We have understood, where the millennials have an edge, and we have also understood where our seniors have an edge, because we were consulting them how to go about this situation, how to deal with this situation, and they guided us through. So today we are more in sync, and I would say thanks to this pandemic. Uh, PR can navigate crisis, as we have been talking all through. We need to keep the audience informed, but how do we keep them informed is important, because as I said, that we all were working, we all were in the business even during complete lockdown. So how we were disseminating information, if you see, when I talk about the companies, we were realistic amidst ourselves. Yes, we were giving on ground information to the media. If I talk about the media, there were channels who were only talking about numbers, that these many numbers have gone up, yahan pe problem, these hospitals not available, these cities, the oxygen problem, this problem. And there were channels who were talking about various good initiatives, where the government was taking lead, where people were coming out and helping people, where there was humanity over everything. So the information was still being given, but it was comforting, it was not disturbing. And whenever there is a crisis or a situation like a pandemic, I think everyone is scared, and we need to we need to comfort the audience rather than disturb them further. Crisis in any which means needs to be communicated. As I said, we cannot put anything under the carpet today. The more you communicate, the more you become trustworthy. The more you go beyond your work commitments, serve the nation, serve the people, be there for others. I think that is what helps in boosting your image, the image of the corporation. When Indian Oil went beyond its said official commitments, be it in the form of helping the authorities, be it oxygen, be it vaccination drives. I mean, we as an entity today are looked upon as a more responsible pillar, to the nation, rather than just an oil and gas company. So PR is something that was communicating with the audience outside the company and inside the company, and we all must definitely take credit, of the kind of communication we have handled during this time, and kept the company in good stead during this pandemic. Well, to conclude, I would just say that why I show this image was because, as I said in the very beginning, that PR was a department, was a domain that was always trying to fit in the puzzle or the business verticals of a company, and we always used to be the odd one, because we were indirectly supporting the organization, or managing the communication, and not directly into the work culture. But now, as you see, we have fitted in. The companies, the organizations have realized the importance of public relations and corporate communications department. How relevant it is to communicate today has been understood by everyone. Purpose driven communication is something that today everyone is looking for. We do not need something which is usual. We do not want to hear something which is passe. We want to know more. We want to understand the organization better, and we need to know that what the company is doing apart from the hardcore business. Uh, Rather than customer engagement, today we are into community engagement. When I talk about communities, I talk about different stratas, I talk about different geographies, I talk about different age groups. So we are more into community engagement rather than single customer engagement. The community can have customers, cannot have customers, but we need to be relevant. We need to make people aware of whom we are, irrespective of whether they are our customers, that they are our prospect customers, or they are not our customers. Empathy, sensitivity, and innovation in communication is something that will go a long way. These are the three keys that we need to hold on to as far as communication is concerned. Uh, we need to understand that anything, any technology can take over. The Siri can read out a press release for you, but the emotions can never be interpreted. The emotions come from a person, the understanding comes from a person, and that is something that is something where we as communication experts come into picture. So to conclude, I would just say that PR as a function will gain much prominence going forward, less as agencies, but more as consultants or advisors. The pandemic has changed things in more ways than one. Now, WhatsApp sessions, Skype, Facebook Live, video calling, video conferencing have become commonplace when it comes to finding solutions to problems, discussing challenges, or devising PR campaigns or strategies. So let us rejoice being more technologically driven today, but keeping in mind that the power of emotions is irreplaceable. Meet whenever possible, greet often, and take out time to invest in relationships. PR is all about that. So thank you so much. I hope you all enjoyed the session. And if there are any questions, you can write to me. We can get in touch. My email ID is chaudharyneha@indianoil.com. It is CHOUDHARYNEHA at indianoil.in. Not com, it's in. So I'll take your leave. Thank you so much. Hope you all enjoyed the session. I'm sure I've not said anything that the August gathering and the audience doesn't know. Just wanted to take you through the changes that have come through and the millennial approach of PR. Thank you so much. Thank you for bearing with me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Neha Choudhary, for your vibrant presentation. During the past 2 years, we all have faced the challenges of the pandemic. All through, our journalists from print and electronic media have toiled hard, risking their lives to make available news that matters. Let us hear from a young journalist what he feels about the profession. Mr. Amit Chaturvedi, digital media journalist, Hindustan Times, New Delhi, talks on journalism post-pandemic. Mr. Amit Chaturvedi is a journalist with more than 14 years of experience in online space with some of the India's biggest brands, Times of India, Hindustan Times, NDTV and Z. The digital world moves as fast as space, but with focus on accuracy and detail, he is currently leading operations at Hindustan Times Digital. May I present to you Mr. Amit Chaturvedi.
Hello everyone. My name is Amit Chaturvedi. I am a digital media professional with more than 15 years of experience. I am currently working with Hindustan Times. I started at a time when digital media was still in its nascent stage in India. Being in this space since then, I got a chance to see the transition that has taken place in digital media. I have studied the growth of digital media during this period and how more and more people have started using it for consuming content. The advent of social media gave digital media a push, resulting in increased participation from users. But in the last 2 years, the world was hit by a pandemic which changed the way we are used to living our lives. The coronavirus disease affected almost every sector, be it travel, education, or healthcare. People have now become more aware of staying healthy and are educating themselves about the changing global scenario in the wake of the pandemic. Journalism, too, has seen a great deal of change, and I am here to talk about it. I have also prepared a slideshow which will run along with my lecture to help you guys understand the concept better. Before I start, I would like to present a short preview about how the world was before COVID-19 struck. Digital medium was considered a necessary evil then in most organizations. Print and television journalists who had no or very little training in digital were in a dominating position. They used to dictate terms about what would be published on digital since most of the websites were and still are part of the main organization. They were the brand ambassadors and given the power to defend it. Though I don't want to use the term, but digital media was like a dumping ground. Yet, due to social media, information generation was happening, but the leaders of the legacy organizations were asserting themselves. Let's see it in the slide. Digital works on different principles. If television is like a buffet, digital gives you a la carte menu. In a typical television or print presentation, I mean the story or the copies that you see or which the anchors read, the content is already written. You don't have much of a choice when it comes to reading. But digital, on the other hand, can be tweaked in real time based on the trends that are happening right now or emerging. There are various tools which allow a digital media professional to package the content in an attractive way. In short, digital not only encompasses the elements of both print as text and television as video, but also presents it in an attractive form. When the pandemic struck and lockdown happened, it presented an unprecedented emergency situation in the newsroom. The emergency was there was no newsroom. Everyone was in the confines of their homes. Newsrooms suddenly disintegrated into small nodes. In a moment, physical newsrooms turned into virtual newsrooms. All the journalists were asked to work remotely, just relying on their gadgets and internet connection to stay in touch with their colleagues and the world. Most of us were not used to this form of working. In the initial days, there was resistance, and then frustration crept in. Since the decision to ask employees to start working from home was taken in a hurry, some organizations did not have the necessary hardware, like computers with good configuration, to give to them. And journalists are used to calling people, going out, and meeting them. So they also did not have a stable and high speed internet connection at home. This started playing out on the quality of journalism, of reporting, news gathering, news dissemination, and packaging. It also presented a challenge of technology transition. Many journalists were not ready to change. After all, they had worked in a certain manner their whole life, or at least most part of it. But this once in a century scenario presented very different challenges to the workforce. The younger lot, which usually keeps itself abreast of technological changes happening around him, quickly adopted to the advancements being thrust upon the employees due to the pandemic. But the older lot, I mean, those in their late 40s, resisted the change. It was too much for them to work using their gadgets, churn out stories without speaking to people. A journalist was not just a reporter now, he was also a videographer, a video editor, and a photographer all rolled into one. So, what happened to TV and print journalists when COVID-19 struck and affected journalism so much? The pandemic presented one of the greatest challenges of a generation for change managers. Suddenly, the high and mighty in print and television were exposed to technology, and most of them proved to be not prepared. This lack of preparation played out in many ways. The first one to face the heat of digital incompetence were the seniors. I mean, those in 45 plus age bracket who belong to the workforce. Then there were the relatively younger ones, but less tech savvy workforce. They both coped in very different ways. The first lot resisted and then used its clout to delegate work. They then tried to brazen out, but finally had to relent to learn few basics which helped them to get by. But a major chunk of them was too overwhelmed by the magnitude of change that they had to manage. From a point of view of tech savvy person like me, I wondered what problem they were facing in learning few commands to operate Zoom or any other frequently used softwares like Google Drive or other simple software which is used widely across the world. But then I realized they had stayed away from technology long enough to be intimidated by it. The second was a younger force, which, though was comfortable with social media, had surprisingly little understanding of those technologies which could have brought ease to their work. Surprisingly, Zoom was one such technology. People were being interviewed on Zoom. There was a panel of experts who spoke to a candidate over a video call. While for me, it made life much simpler since I did not have to drive through maniacal traffic and reach just in the nick of time. Others shivered about operating their laptops, mobile phones, or tablets for the interview. They were looking for appropriate backgrounds, camera position, etc., which affected their performance in interviews. Another popular software used for all these purposes is Google Duo. Being one of the leading products from Google's stable, it is pretty simple to use, much like Zoom. But the application faced challenge to those who were not prepared. But the application faced challenges from those who were not prepared. In other cases also, they found scheduling a meeting, sharing screens, or using speech to text functionality on apps like WhatsApp difficult to master. But when the management insisted and the seniors sternly asked them to do this, they learned it and survived. Then came the era of layoffs and bloodbath. A majority of the layoff happened in the first lot, that is, the senior management. These layoffs in the senior segment had a ripple effect on the morale of the workforce. For example, the message went around that nobody was safe. If it can happen to them, it can happen to me too. The second message was that management is insensitive. Those who have spent their lifetimes in the organizations were shown the door. There is no respect for commitment, integrity, and long years of work and experience. This was the thought among the workforce. What they did not understand was that mostly who were sent out had become irrelevant in the new scheme of things. And they were showing no signs of relearning or making themselves relevant. But I don't blame the general view of the workforce because the magnitude and the suddenness of change was so overwhelming that if a large part of the journalistic community was not ready for it, I would not blame them because this was once in a century situation. With this lingering insecurity in their minds, the second phase of pandemic started unfolding. And then we all realized what were the new challenges that were emerging. The first and the foremost was loss of interpersonal communication. To understand it better, it is important for me to talk about how a newsroom functions. A typical newsroom is a large assembly line area where lots of people are working in close coordination, kind of the well of BSE stock exchange, which you guys must have seen on television. To an outsider, it may look like chaos, but for us journalists, it feels like home, isn't it? Because a lot is happening and everyone is working like a cog in a well-oiled machine. But once you are not together, coordination becomes the biggest casualty. You may ask how, since it's a digital world and everyone is believed to be connected. But let me take you back to the newsroom and how the teams work. There are small teams, one which is dealing with local reporting, the other which is dealing with ministries and national news. Then there is one dealing with sports, economics, arts, etc. Then there are designers and sub editors. It's a very informal setup, and each one is asking for help on the go. So, physical presence and proximity is always considered as an asset. The moment everyone started working from home, each one felt like fish out of water. It impacted people in different ways. Let me give you two examples. The juniors who were sitting at home did not know how to deal with flow of information that was coming to them. They couldn't make any sense of it because in a typical newsroom, in any situation, they could have popped up their heads and asked either a senior or a colleague which was important news in order of priority and can be attended first. The senior or the team leaders, on the other hand, became paranoid as they could not physically look at their teams. This played out in a very unique manner, and let me tell you how. The junior was coping with this challenge in two ways. Either he or she was totally shutting out, and the best excuses they developed were, Sir, net chala gaya tha. My net is very slow, or even better, there is no electricity at my place. These three became the standard excuses, and a time came where I had to ask, any other excuses apart from these three? I don't blame these youngsters because it is an overwhelming situation. There's no doubt about that. Matters were made worse due to the paranoia of middle managers like team leaders. They would constantly be either on phone or email or Zoom just to keep in touch. Each one started feeling that all the three combined were ending up being a poor substitute for physical presence, at least initially. This overzealous attitude of remaining in constant contact drove everyone crazy. Let me tell you how. Constant ringing of phone, constant scheduling of Zoom meetings, and barrage of emails instead of increasing productivity started weighing heavily on the employees' productivity. More than doing their job, they found themselves attending to needless meetings, needless calls, and needless emails because everything had to be replied to. That led to added stress, which played out in burnouts, stress, and in some cases, leaving of jobs. It also played out in a degree of insensitivity on the part of middle managers. And the standard line, which I think most of the employees have come to dread, is their line manager telling them, but you are at home and can work. This work from home became a bane rather than a boon because now everyone was working 24/7. And those who had worked from home earlier found that this setup and new form of work from home was 24/7 torture. And instead of increasing productivity, it was becoming counterproductive. Managing online work in such a scenario had a spillover in the personal lives of journalists. I can give you my example. My workday begins very early, at 5 a.m. I have to look at trending stories and comb the social media for content that is being consumed by the people on the internet. Now, going by work logic, the shift should ideally end in 8 or 9 hours, but it extends for a long time with the same voice resonating in my head. You are at home. Working from home particularly becomes difficult when you have children at home, especially in a small house. You can't tell a 3-year-old that I'm working because they just don't know about the concept of office. I know couples where one is having morning shifts and the other is working in evening shift. So, despite being together at home, they hardly get time to spend with each other. In such a scenario, children feel neglected. During lockdown and second wave, everyone was forced to be inside their houses. It took its toll. because no one can go out and both sets of parents are working and child cannot move around freely in his own or house, and there is no time to spend together. This personal stress started spilling over into the professional lives too. The language of emails became nastier. The Zoom meetings, for want of a better word, had more fireworks, and tempers were running high. Till now, I have talked about people who handle the back end of the news operation, who manage the site and edit the news from the desk. Let's now come to the other part of the journalism, the news gatherers. The biggest challenge they encountered when the pandemic hit was restricted movement and threat to whatever little movement they were doing. I personally feel that those who were working on the ground covering the pandemic are a heroic lot because they were working in almost chaotic conditions. They were putting their lives on the line in a situation where information was hard to come by. They were also dealing with a lot of misinformation through WhatsApp, YouTube, and other social media platforms. They were also facing once in a century situation. The sheer tragedy that was unfolding in front of them was too much to bear. I don't think any journalistic school or induction program within the organization had prepared them to deal with this kind of situation. Looking at long lines of people going back home, stuffed hospitals, people dying in droves, and the fear that being in close proximity to them can make them sick too was something that overwhelmed these reporters. The news gatherers were fighting on many fronts, trying to protect their physical health, mental health, and deal with an avalanche of misinformation and yet produce information or news of integrity. I can give you an example of my colleague, a brilliant reporter and very passionate about giving correct information to the people. When COVID struck, he volunteered to go out in the field and present the real picture to the world. He told me about the harrowing scenes in hospitals, at homes, or in areas which we frequently visited. I used to have long conversations with him whenever he covered a story or visited an area to know about the spread of COVID 19. In most of our conversations, I advised him to be careful and avoid areas where outbreaks are being reported. He would listen to me but never followed my advice. As soon as the second wave hit the country, I got the news that he had contracted COVID and was in hospital. This man dwindled between life and death as the infection was strong, and even after so many months, he is having difficulty in breathing. In such a harrowing situation, one more problem emerged. Salaries were cut and layoffs happened. In one of the companies I worked earlier, hundreds of employees were asked to leave. Some of them posted heartbreaking messages on social media platforms in which they asked for help from their connections. I also received many applications from those who I knew as well as people who got access to my contact details. But unfortunately, I couldn't help all of them. It's been nearly 2 years, but I still see some faces who are not part of the workforce anymore and are still trying. I'm sure many of you must have also seen such posts on LinkedIn and other platforms and tried to help these people. And yet, like it is said that every challenge brings with it new opportunities, the COVID situation wasn't all gloom and doom. There were certain things that took root in this short time, which will have a far reaching effect on news gathering, content creation, and content curation. As I have seen, this pandemic hastened the pace of change which was building up in last one decade. The first and the foremost is digitization, and digital journalism will now be the spearhead of information dissemination. Television, audio, and text, which is print media, will now play a supporting role because everything will now be dovetailed into digital technology. And it has been happening. Let's see in this slide, which tells you how digital media has grown in last 2 years. As you can see, in India, it has grown phenomenally. Even social media and people consuming news on social media has been growing year on year. Before the pandemic, many media organizations, especially the print media, were shifting to digital. One of the classic example was Newsweek magazine, which stopped publishing its print version and went digital. These things were happening, but pandemic accelerated it. In 2 years' time, the movement of revenue has shifted from print and television towards the digital. It has also increased in its reach, and television too is now in the process of going digital. As you can see in this slide, online media, which also includes the social media part, 82% of the users consume news on online media, which include these websites, social media platforms, and other online channels. In 2 years of my experience working from home in a digital environment, I see three broad trends emerging in the digital journalism ecosystem. One, sources of news generation too will become digital now. For example, today most of the journalists take a cue from Twitter and Instagram feeds by the politicians and celebrities, companies and ministries. Mostly this trend will increase. So going on in the field will be matched by the inflow of information from the digital medium. Second, individually, YouTube channels will start eating up into the brand value and user base of the television channels. Examples, many individual channels have cropped up in last 2 years, as well as many that were working sporadically are doing it more regularly. Their user base has shot up by 100 to 200,000. The third trend is machine learning, artificial intelligence, and virtual reality will slowly make the run-of-the-mill traditional reporter and sub-editor redundant. By redundancy, I mean the need for their job will be considerably diminished. Where we need 10 sub-editors today, we may only be needing one or two in the near future. For the sub-editors and local reporters, it would be a moment of reckoning, which has a parallel that I can draw that happened 30 years ago, when computers were introduced in journalism and Adobe PageMaker was installed. In one go, paste-up artists and pagemakers were made redundant. Something like this is going to unfold in next 3 to 5 years. So in the end, let me conclude by saying that last 2 years of pandemic have been both good and bad for journalism. Bad because we lost a lot of good people and journalism as we know it underwent a drastic change. Good thing is that new trends are emerging and people are adjusting with them. The journalism of future from now on will be for those journalists who are tech savvy and ready to learn. From now on, the process of change, especially the introduction of newer technologies, will be fast and furious. Those who are prepared to ride the tides of change will survive and the rest will drown. I'll end this talk by quoting famous American futurologist Alvin Toffler that 21st century belongs to those who have the ability to learn, unlearn, and then relearn. I think this would be the key to success in future. Thank you very much.
It was great to hear from Mr. Amit about the post-pandemic journalism. Let us now take a break and meet again at 1 p.m.